wrestling fans. This is Mr. Number One, George South, longtime NWA legend, and you're listening to Working Fans Podcast.
Everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast with Dave, and today I got a special guest, a man who's worked for the National Wrestling Alliance, the World Wrestling Federation, World Championship Wrestling. He's worked in the ring with guys like Ric Flair, the Koloffs, the Rock and Roll Express, Dusty Rhodes, Dick Murdoch, and Harley Race. I could go on. He's probably one of the most popular enhancement talents you'll ever see. This guy's an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur, easy for me to say. He's a promoter. He's a wrestler. He's got a book out. We're going to talk to him today. Mr. Number One, George South. George, how are you, sir?
All right, buddy. Dave, thank you so much, man. I was going to let you keep on. I was enjoying that. No, thank you so much, man. I've had a great career and still at it, and I just can't wait till we all get to, get back up and get going again. But, man, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You know, George, it's funny. I always hear, wrestlers will talk about this, and guys will talk about the art of getting over. And you were in a lot of enhancement matches when I was younger. I was growing up. I grew up on the NWA Crockett territory and stuff. But I remember you. You got over. I know who you were. I know who Barry Horowitz was. I know these guys.
Right.
And, what was the key to that, you think?
Well, it sounds crazy nowadays, but I learned early on, Dave, just to, keep my mouth shut and listen. You hear that so much now, but really, of course, when I came along, it was just, of course, so much different. A lot of the older guys, they didn't want you in the business. I mean, back then it was, nobody got in because they felt like you were going to take their spot. Mm. So I just really, I shared, I remember the first time I didn't know how to get in pro wrestling, and I called Georgia Championship Wrestling in Atlanta, and Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer answered. Can you imagine that? I mean, Dave, I said hello, and he said, well, if you come in, I'll kill you. And, I mean, that was it. And so I hung the phone up and said, maybe there's another way I need to try this. But I really, of course, there was no cell phones, anything like that. We just, every now and then you could get a Bill Apter magazine, and they would have an address, in the back. Right. To some promoter, and we just mailed pictures, and I did that for years. I believe it or not, I never got one picture answered. In other words, nobody ever called me back. You can imagine that, Dave. But I wouldn't give up. I mean, I knew since I watched it as a kid that this is what I wanted to do, and I just knew there had to be some way. And then finally, I had met an old guy named Rusty Roberts who had wrestled for Mid-Atlantic a little bit, and he had an old gym. And I answered an ad. It was like a Rocky movie. I answered a little, 3-line ad in the newspaper, and the rest is history. I mean, I went in, and they beat the crap out of me for 2 days. And I said, I ain't never going back. I hate this. And for some reason, I went back. But what I learned early on, Dave, is you can't make no money by yourself. And what I mean by that is nobody in pro wrestling has ever made any money by themselves. There has to be two people. And early on, I just learned that if I'm going to choose pro wrestling, I'm going to do whatever they ask me to do the best that I can. And believe me, a lot of those matches, I remember Arn Anderson brought me over to a guy one time, and he said, George, we need you to do us a favor. He said, but George, it should be the other way around. He said, the guy should be doing you a favor. That was it. And I teach that in my school. If you just keep your mouth shut and listen and just do what they ask you to do. Yeah. I mean, I emptied Dusty Rhodes' trash in his office here in Charlotte for years just so he'd see my face. And finally he got tired of me and said, come here, we'll put you in a match. I mean, everybody thinks that even when I wrote my book that there was a success secret. No, it was just being too hard-headed, to take no for an answer. And then the word of mouth got out, I like working for Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I tell my students that if you just be quiet, you ain't got to tell nobody who you are. They'll find out who you are. And I still love it. I'm still one of the biggest marks in the world, Dave, I laugh sometimes on the internet when you see a wrestler say, "Oh, you shouldn't ask another wrestler for pictures." And I always laugh at that. Are you crazy? I mean, these are my heroes, you know? And you know what? As you get older, Dave, that's when you really, that's why I'm really thankful that I have the pictures and you know, those memories. When you're young and you just try to make a lot of money, you don't think that one day you're going to be able to look back and hope that you got, you know, something to remember some of these great guys by.
No, absolutely true. And I like what you said about taking Dusty's trash and just to get in front of his face every day. Like, we're doing a podcast and we ask everybody for interviews. And I had a gentleman recently ask me if he was going to do the interview and then he found out he needed to get improved by a PR department. And he said, if you don't want the contact info, I understand. I'm like, no, send me the info. Like, I'll email, I'll message everybody. I'm just nice about it. Be nice. But don't be afraid to get your face out there, you know, and get work.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you know, Dave, one of my everybody asks me all the time, what are you most proud of? I mean, was it, you know, we know your relationship with the Lord and all that, but in wrestling, what is the most thing you're proud of? Is it wrestling Ric Flair? Is it wrestling Lou Thesz? And you know what I tell them I'm most proud of, Dave?
Yeah.
Every time that Dusty Rhodes gave me work, whether it was one TV that week, or 7 days at the Great American Bash, Dave, I would always call him on Monday morning at the office, and I would tell him thank you.
Sure.
And he got so tired of that he wouldn't even take my calls. I mean, I'd have to leave a message with the secretary, you know? But now that, of course, we don't have Dusty and you know, I'm getting a little older, I'm so thankful that I did that. Because I really wasn't just show. I was very appreciative of what he did. There's 100 million guys in pro wrestling. But he could have booked anybody. But what's so special about, I think, my career, Dave, is most of my shows and the TVs and the appearances, I wasn't even supposed to be there. I mean, I built a career on filling in for guys. Filling in for guys. And so I'm able to look back and you know, I learned early on that, you know, wrestlers are not the smartest tool in the shed, and a lot of them mess up. And when they mess up, the way our business is, somebody's got to fill that spot. And, I mean, I didn't sit around and wait like a vulture on some of these guys to screw up, but that's the truth of our business. A lot of them made stupid mistakes, but they still... You know, the fans could care less. The fans bought a ticket to see a match. So I was able to pick up a lot of shows that led to another. You know, Dusty used to call me and Rocky King his utility guys. Dave.
Yeah.
He said, y'all are my utility guys. And, man, I was glad of it.
Well, that's awesome. And you know what's funny? I was going to ask you about this later, but I think it's a great segue. You said, hey, always show up, always be ready. And you take that with promoting, too, because I saw you put on a show without a ring. The ring didn't show up.
We sure did. You know, that's another thing I'm proud of. You know, I do a lot of youth camps where kids that never get to go to wrestling, we just take a ring in. Well, this particular show we had, it was back to school day, Bash. And we had 300 kids bust in. And the gimmick was that they get a free book bag, you know, after the show. Well, it happens. My ring truck broke down. But I get, you know what was so cool about that, Dave, is I get there, and my guys, they have been through everything with me. They were already dressed out. I mean, they knew, they may not be in a ring, but George is going to make us do something. We did. I mean, you know what's so special when you watch that video? Those kids didn't even know there wasn't even a ring there.
Right.
They still had. And you know what's so special? When one of my guys, Cedric Alexander, who's with WWE,
yeah,
you know, when he signed with them, he called me, and I was so excited for him, Dave. And I said, man, how was the meeting with Triple H and the guys? And, you know, did they want to know about your trips to Japan? He said, oh, no. He said, all they want to talk about is that show we did without a ring.
That's awesome.
You know, so, but what are you going to do? Tell 300 kids you can't have it?
Right.
So you just do it. You just go out there and do it.
That's a great lesson for people out there, even if you're not into wrestling or whatever. A lot of what you're talking about, too, is just work ethic. Just showing up, being ready, and don't stop. And, that's great advice for anybody.
Well, Dave, it's so funny. Everybody wants to know, how do I wrestle for George Sapp? When he runs a show, okay, and it's been going on for years in the Carolinas, how do I get on one of George's shows? And I tell them, I said, just show up and help me. And they'll say, well, I know that, but let me send you a videotape or a clip of my match. I said, no, none of that matters to me. I'll be there at 2 o'clock with the ring, and if you want to be a part of my show, be there at 2 o'clock. Right. And that's it. But I don't know if they overthink it. Dave, I don't know. Here's a true lesson, Dave. My first day ever at training, I'm getting ready. I was, just turned 18, man. I'm going to be the next, Rock before there's the Rock. And I show up, and Rusty's there, and an old gym, and I'm getting ready to follow my dream. And he hands me a broom. I said, what the heck's this for? He said, well, I got to leave. You go ahead and sweep out that ring. And I said, oh, what do you mean? I'm here to do leg drops and suplexes. And he said, just go sweep the ring. And so I did not like it at all. But I went, and he stayed gone for I swept that ring for about an hour. And he came back, and I'm still there sweeping. And I said that, Dave, to say, do you know that I still use that to this day? And I have never had a guy be there when I get back.
Wow.
When I give them an old listen, I'm not lying, Dave. I just had a 20-year-old guy.
I believe it.
He signed up for my school. I give him a broom, and honestly, I'm not making fun of him, and this sounds so stupid. He did not know how to use a broom. Dave, he's never swept in his life.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah.
I come back. Listen, what a great scene in the movie it would be. I come back after being gone, and the broom's laying in the middle of the ring. Okay? I'm thinking, this works too good to be true.
Right.
But they don't want, I learned more with a broom than any video of yours from Japan. Really. If you ain't going to sweep my ring out, I don't want you. You may not find that in the wrestling almanac, but brother, if you ain't going to sweep my broom, I ain't got no sweep my ring. I ain't got no use for you.
That's a great lesson, man, because I know, before, I own a little business delivering bread, but before that, I used to manage a grocery store, and I used to tell, younger people to work for me all the time, I'll take great effort any day. If you apply yourself and you're going to give me 100% effort, I'll take that 9 times out of 10 any day of the week.
Amen, buddy. I tell these kids, your attitude means more to me than your ability. They'll stand there, and it's like they're trying to sell me a car. They'll tell me that they can stand on their head, they can do these dives out of the ring, and none of that matters to me. It don't, because if that attitude, that's what counts to me. So, and I try to teach it. All I want to do, Dave, my first month in the business, I met an old wrestler named Ron Starr.
Yes.
And he's passed away now, but man, I loved him, and I don't know why he liked me, but he told me one time, he said, all you can do is leave pro wrestling better than you found it. And for some reason, that stuck with me. And that's all I want to do. I'm not here to change the world or anything else. I'm just going to leave wrestling, just a little bit better than I found it. And there's a lot of guys that don't feel that way. They've sucked it dry, Dave. I'll be honest. And that ain't the way this thing's supposed to work, buddy. But I just, I realize you need somebody to make money. Hogan.
Sure.
Hogan needed Andre. Hogan needed Mr. T. Mr. T needed Hogan. We all need. You cannot make a dime by yourself. You can't. Nobody cares.
Absolutely. I remember used to hear the argument who made wrestling, who made the WWE real big? Was it Hogan or Vince? And I was like, well, it's kind of both of them, wasn't it?
It sure was.
And everybody else
totally
was involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
but
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave. I'll shut up.
No, it's fine. I've enjoyed this. I was going to ask you you seem to really love training. Do you prefer training over wrestling? Is it just totally different? What's your preference on that?
Well, I just want to be in a wrestling ring. I know that sounds crazy, Dave, but I'll be 60 years old soon, and I've spent, 43 years of that being in a wrestling ring, and I just want to be in it. Now, I know a big crowd is important or whatever, but whether I'm wrestling. I tell my students all the time, I'll stop my training right in the middle of it and look around at them. And I got all these young kids, 19, 20, 25 years old, and they got all these depressed looks on their face. And, I stop training and say, listen, I'm getting ready to go home. I mean, I'm 60 years old. I can't be the most exciting guy in this ring right now, And so whether it's training or still performing, man, but there's still no feeling like it when it works. Like if you put me out there with Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express, and it's that old, it's just simple. I'm the bad guy, and he's the good guy.
Yeah.
And to get those, it's still pretty cool, Dave, to control those people, when they don't even know that you're controlling them. And I make them sit up, I make them yell, I make them boo, I make them cry. And I'm doing that, and they don't even realize I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that, the mystique of our business is there's still no greater feeling in the world. And of course, the bad guy gets beat. Everybody asks me all the time, what's wrong with wrestling? I said, well, I know when I was a fan and when I was brought in, I could sit down with a bag of popcorn and figure out, who the bad guy was and who the good guy was. Mm. And right now, that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to have a college education to go to a wrestling match,
right?
Dave.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, who am I supposed to boo here? I mean, who's the good guy? The whole object of being a good baby face is you're supposed to look weak, but it's crazy because I see these baby faces that are like Terminators. They don't want to sell nothing. They don't even want to go to a knee. And I'm thinking, I don't even understand this,
what's funny?
And I know my job. I've just always knew, my job was to go out there and do what I could to make Ric Flair or Arn Anderson or any of those guys, look like $1 million. And it's lasted. I mean, it's funny because, I just went down to the NWA, Dave, right before this virus hit.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, go ahead and talk about that. I'm interested.
Oh, buddy, Dave, it was the greatest thing in the world because it had been probably 35 years since I was in that kind of setting, with the studio and the fans. But you know what's funny? What brought back a lot of memories, when I first walked in that TV studio, Dave, how cold it is. In other words, they have to keep it freezing because those cameras will overheat. So I had forgot the Techwood Drives and the TBSs, how cold those studios were. But, nobody told me my finish. Nobody told me. That's what I loved about that NWA. I knew I was wrestling Colby Corina, who I loved to death. Mm-hmm. But I knew before I left Charlotte that I was going to put him over, Dave. I knew it. I mean, that's how it was going to go. If the NWA would have told me, George, we want you to go out there and beat this kid, I wouldn't have done it. Mm. I would have done it. I mean, I'm not being a jerk, but my job for these last 41 years is to do what I did down there with Colby, because he deserves it. I mean, he did. He deserved it. And everybody thought we put a lot of thought in it. Someone told me they had all these agents in the back, Dave, and I wouldn't let not one of them come up to me. Hey, listen, I'm old enough to be their dad. Right. What's some agent want to tell me? And we went out there, and you know what's so special is that thing was months ago. People that I ran into, even at a gas station the other day, they watched that, and they don't even talk about the finish. They talk about how much fun the match was.
Yeah.
See? And that's what I loved about that. So I knew my place, even after all these years. Colby Corina was funny because I tell everybody, if NWA gives me a contract, I'm going to give it to Colby.
That's great. Yeah, actually, one of the guys who does the podcast with me, I told him today I was talking to you, and that's one of the things he said. You got to ask about Circles Squared in the NWA. And I said, I'm already doing that. So
you're laughing. Dave, you're laughing at me. The hardest thing about that whole weekend was me trying to remember what it was called. Because, I'm used to doing an interview and saying Squared Circle.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Oh, my God, we did some pre-interviews, and they were all laughing at me because I had to write on my hand with a Sharpie.
Sure.
Because, to get the words right.
It's like muscle memory. You're used to saying that for so many years.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
See, here's the thing about that, Dave, real quick, buddy.
Yeah, good.
Here's why I want to grab the fans by the shoulders and shake them and say, what are y'all doing? You know, Kobe came out there and to me did one of the best, sincere, honest promos that he'd ever done. I mean, he got emotional because that's life.
Right.
I mean, and those tears were real. That wasn't planned. And then it was funny to see about 10 fans later say, man, how did Kobe turn those tears on like that? I mean, I'm thinking, see, that's what is missing in our wrestling is when fans get that emotionally attached to us. What a, holy cow. It was like WrestleMania for me. Here's this young kid that has practically died in life and come back. And he wants to support his little boy. This is all a shoot.
Yeah,
this ain't made up. No writer told us in the back. And then here comes this old grouchy fart that hates everybody, which was me. And I'm going to come out. I love the kid, but I'm going to have to beat him because I want to be part of NWA. We had people, not because it was me, Dave, but we had people that just wanted to see me get my butt kicked before we ever rung the bell. And you know, they asked me the other week, why did that work? Dave, the reason that worked is nobody told me in the back what I was supposed to say. You can't do that, because I'm not going to listen. Right. Because, I mean, I'm not being a jerk, but nobody knows how I feel but me.
Right.
So, you know, and I don't know, I could talk about that all day, but, man, they just let me go do my job. That's the best way to describe that NWA.
I will say that about that promotion, too, since they brought back NWA. One of the things I've noticed is the authenticity of it. Like, Tim Storm, the stuff you did with Kobe, even Nick Aldis, their champ. Like, I'm watching a show, and I'm seeing good, solid action. I watched one of their pay-per-views, and then Aldis comes in, he has his match, and it's the world champ, and suddenly it feels like, and this has been missing in my opinion, as a fan.
That's right.
It feels like it's a big fight feel. Like the world champ of boxing or UFC or whatever is in there, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is, now we've turned it up. And it's like, it's a show like I grew up watching as a youngster. Like, I'm okay, we're building, and everything comes off like off the cuff. I talked to Tim Storm before. He is that guy. You are that guy. Yeah. And that's what's so great about that, you know?
Right. And I loved it. The only part that I would, it's just because I'm an old fuddy-duddy, but when I sat back and watched it weeks later, it was weird hearing fans, and I know that's the concept of it, but to see fans be able to comment.
Right.
But you know, my comeback was, I got to be able to, they should let me reply to the fans, you know? You know, they'll kick me right off of there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, let the fans watch the match and chime in, but then let me chime in on the fans.
I wanted to ask you about this. You're a man of faith. I think that's awesome. I heard a story, and I don't know much about this, where you gave Kristen Tract to Hulk Hogan?
Yeah.
So tell us about that and about that, how that all came about and everything.
Well, you know what's funny is years ago, I mean, I speak in a lot of schools and stuff, Dave, and you know the deal. I mean, I know, I've spoke to high school football teams, and, you know, and I understand, I respect that, you know, as much as I love the Lord, they won't let me, you know, you can't talk about that. So years and years ago, a cartoon artist that draws comic books, Stephen Butler, I'm still good friends with him, he drew just a little comic book of me. And man, I look like the Warrior. I got muscles and hair, and so it's full colored, first class, and it's just a small comic book, and it just shares my life. It don't push nothing on nobody or nothing, and so I'm able to go in schools when kids ask me for autographs, and it's just an encouraging thing that, you know, you can do anything in this world you want to do. God will bless you like He asked me. So anyway, first time I never met Hulk Hogan, and I don't care who you are, Dave, in the wrestling business. They'll be lying if they say they never wanted to meet Hulk Hogan.
Sure.
Because I'm telling you, he did the movies with Rocky, and so, but I wanted not to challenge him or anything like that. I just wanted to share one of my comic books with him. And so I went to the first TV, and it was funny, Dave. I followed him around for 2 days. I was trying to get up the nerve to talk to him. I mean, this is like WrestleMania. This is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Big as a house. Heck, I didn't even know what you call him. I mean, Hulk or, you know, Hulk Hogan. And he went to get a coffee, and man, we had the greatest. It was the beginning of our friendship. I just went in and just asked him if I could share, this comic book with him. And it was funny because I was kind of joking. I said, you get on TV and say your prayers and take your vitamins. I said, I just want to know if that's for real. I didn't know if he was going to punch me or laugh or what. But he said, man, and you know what was so cool, Dave? He said, listen, when I get on my knees to pray, he said, man, I'm the same size as all these kids. And here's what's so neat about this story, Dave. Fast forward 20-something years. We did a show in Charlotte with Ric Flair, Hogan. A lot of people don't even know this show happened at a high school. The main event was the Nasty Boys against Flair's sons, Reed Flair and David. And Rick was in their corner. We sold out of high school right here, but Hogan came because they were taping his TV show. This is the first, and this has been 20-something years. At the end of the night, Dave, everybody's left, and we're taking the ring down. And I noticed back there in the dressing room, an old football locker room dressing room, there's a light on. And so the coaches left, Flair left, everybody left. And I told my guy, I said, hold on here with the ring. I'm going to go see what. I didn't walk, I heard a noise. I go back there, Dave, and Hulk Hogan had been there since like 9 a.m. that morning, just taking pictures with people.
Wow.
Not making a dime, just because he was still there at 11:30 because some of the athletic director people and some of the coaches and the teachers wanted a picture with him. And so you know what I did? I got right in line, Dave.
That's awesome.
But, there was no cameras. Every wrestler on that card had already left. See, and that's all I built my business. I mean, my career on is what I see how people are, and he didn't have to do that.
No,
Dave. I'm marked out for that. I was just, I respected that so much. He stayed. We had the ring loaded before he left, so everybody that wanted a picture with him would get a picture with him. I put it in my book. I mean, the picture of that night that was like the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Hey, you'll love this. I had just bought a $40 referee shirt for my shows, and Hogan was going to special referee that main event with the Nasty Boys. So they asked me, did I have a ref shirt? I said, sure. For Hogan, yeah. I sent it over to Hogan's dressing room. They brought it back with the sleeves cut out of it. But, I mean, why have a $40 shirt? But anyway, he autographed it for me, and I took it home. But,
that's great.
It was kind of cool. They brought it back. So here, Hogan said thank you, and the sleeves were cut out of it. So,
hey, I got to tell you, just to bring it back here, what you said earlier, there's Hulk Hogan early in the morning, all day signing autographs. No one's around. He's just doing it for the love, and you got people that can't even sweep the broom or want to hang out for like.
Ain't that amazing?
It is.
Listen, this ain't brain surgery. What we're talking about, you know why people have lasted. There's a reason Hogan is still around.
Yeah.
It's just like the Boogie Woogie man, Jimmy Valiant, who just I think turned 76 years old, and here in the Carolinas, he's still. Now, he'll do a special referee or a manager, but right before this virus hit, Dave, he showed me his book, his date book. Now, he's 76 years old, been in the business decades, and he's still booked every weekend. Now, what a testament to, he doesn't force his way on people. They call him, to book him. And that's all I want out of my career, man. I just want people to still want to be around me at that age, Dave. But ain't that something that, like I let some of these young wrestlers sometimes, can they come and just say hey to a little kid or something, and they look at me like it was the dumbest thing in the world I could ask. And so my question, you know what I learned in our wrestling business? I tell these kids, it ain't how you start, it's how you finish this thing. There's a lot of wrestlers that started with hopes and we're going to change the wrestling world. And now we don't, what happened to them? For whatever reason. So I believe that with all my heart. I taught that to Cedric and also Tessa. Oh my gosh, I was able to train her, and I'm so proud of her. Dave. You know what's amazing about training wrestlers' kids? I trained Ricky Steamboat's son, Bobby Eaton's son, and people think just because your dad was good that you're supposed to be good, and that's nuts. Because the pressure, you wouldn't believe the pressure that is on these kids before they ever get in the ring, that they expect you. I was sitting at an autograph signing with Ric Flair's son, Reed, the one that passed away.
Yeah.
Bless his heart, man. I love that kid. And we sat there for about an hour, Dave, and 100 people come up, and every one of them said, "How's your dad? How's your dad? How's your dad?" And after about 40 minutes, I stopped one of them, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, can you ask Reed how he's doing?"
Right. Simple common courtesy.
Well, when Tessa got in it, everybody thought Chloe had trained her. When Tessa came to me, she'd never been in a ring in her life. Never. And she just busted her butt. Everybody else would train 2 and 3 hours, and they'd leave, and she'd want to stay. So if nothing else, I'm so proud. I'll tell you a funny story, Dave, and I promise I'm going to shut up.
No, I love it. Go keep going, George.
When Cedric signed his WWE contract, he was so excited, and so he called me, and I was kind of, joking with him. I said, "Cedric," I said, "yeah, all that money's good." I said, "But you know me," I said, "until I can walk in Walmart and see you hanging on the wall, then you had never really made it." And he started laughing. Of course, I was talking about his action figure.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And, and so it was funny. And then, can you believe that maybe a month later, I go to my mailbox, and he sent me a package. It was his action figure.
That's awesome, man.
So now I tell everybody, "Yeah, Cedric made it. You can go to Walmart, and see him hanging on the wall."
Hey,
so
you know what? You trained him. He's obviously a good kid. And, hey, things are tough right now, and the WWE made a lot of cuts. They didn't cut Cedric.
They sure did.
They didn't cut Cedric, though. He kept his job, and I think there's got to be something to that. That's...
Well, I'm hoping that we've all, I tell everybody's got to relax, man, because we've never dealt with this plague. Nobody thinks we're supposed to know how to act with this. And everybody says, "Well, how do you feel about the shows without people?" And the only thing I may not like about it, Dave, the wrestlers still have to eat. See, what nobody understands is when this is all you do for a living, and it stopped. We didn't have, what's funny is we didn't have a say in it. It ain't like me and you wrestled, Dave, and we tore up a high school gym, and they said, "Don't ever come back." That was our fault. This is not our fault.
Right.
And so the only thing I'm hoping, and not just in wrestling, but with all sports and everything, that I just hope people don't get comfortable, just sitting at home. And what I mean by that, Dave, is I got a buddy of mine that just, in the wrestling business, he just did an online auction from his living room, and he made like $6,000.
Yeah.
I mean, why would he ever go to a show and buy a vendor table?
No. I know. Yeah, I'm working now. I deliver bread, and I'm busier than ever. But I talked to some people who were telling me about other people that were unemployed right now, but they were giving them like bonus money, and it was like $1,300 a week. And I'm glad we're taking care of you, but I'm like, man, who wants to go back to work? You're sitting at home and just making all that money.
Oh, I'm telling you, that's what I'm afraid of, buddy. I mean, I'm serious. I got twin girls. My daughters are 21, and one of them does hair. And doing hair is almost like the wrestling business. You got to wait for them to open you back up. And so she's filed for unemployment, and I laugh at her because I'm glad she was able to get it, but you're thinking, why would anybody leave the house?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to deal with people. Yeah. My buddy in the wrestling business, he'll never deal with another promoter. He'll just sit at home in his pajamas with his phone and do online auctions. And I'm thinking, but I don't think that's a good thing, so we'll see. I know, it's a tough call for anybody, but, I'm glad the wrestlers are still getting to work, and nobody knows how to handle this. We will know maybe next time, if something comes along like this, but we've never, when it first happened, man, I thought, we'll be shut down. Like here in the Carolinas, it's become a joke, Dave, because the weightlifting gyms are still closed. So they hadn't opened our gyms, but they they've opened up like swimming pools. So, I mean, so you got everybody here laughing that, you know, you can go pee in a pool, but you can't go pee in a weightlifting gym.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah.
So,
that doesn't make any sense. Huh. Well, George, I love your enthusiasm. You've been awesome. We even went a little bit over the half hour, which is great. I'd love to have you back down the road.
Oh, buddy, anytime.
Tell us anything you want to promote or talk about. Finish up.
Well, you know, I got my school. If they want to go, the fans want to go to georgesouth.com. I'm still very old school. I've got a website, and it leads them to everything. In other words, I've got my book that I'm very proud of. Me and Mark James wrote, and it's on there. And my school, so they can go to georgesouth.com and email me if they've got any questions. I mean, autograph pictures. So that kind of is the first step. They can go on there, and then it'll lead them to anywhere else, you know, that they may want to go. You know, and it's funny because even now with these gyms, we're still, my wrestling school, we're not open full time yet, but we're still talking to. But here's one last lesson, real quick, Dave. And this describes George South. This man called me and said, I give people tours of my school. You know, before I sign you up, you're able to come in and meet me and see the school. So this was last week. This man asked me, can he come and see my school? So I let him. He comes in, he sees the ring, he meets me. He was like a professional looking guy. I mean, he looked like he was like, you know, had some sense. So he loved it. We talked about him signing up when things open back up. 4 days go by, Dave, and he calls me again. He said, do you mind if I get one last look at your school? I said, no. I said, I'll be there today cleaning up. Come on down. He said, well, what's the address? Dave, I wouldn't give it to him. I said, no. If this man can't, I don't want him. I mean, you know, he probably had $10,000 to give me, you know, to support my ministry. But that aggravated me. You're trying to tell me I must not have left a good impression on him, Dave. But I'm thinking your first step in wrestling is paying attention, buddy.
Right.
And I didn't even get to give him a broom. He couldn't even find my school, Dave.
I mean, at this day and age, too, you could have just looked it up online, or it's just funny.
Oh, my gosh. And see, I felt like, buddy, all you got to do is Google my name.
Right. You had to get the towns on a map back in the day.
Man, I took one of my students to a West Virginia town about 2 months ago, and we literally had to stop. We couldn't find a building because there was no cell phone service. There was no GPS service. So one of my new students, he said, what are we going to do? I said, pull over to this gas station. He said, huh? I said, no, you're going to run in and ask them where the school is. So he goes in, Dave, and it was so beautiful. He goes in and asks this old lady where the school is. She takes the back of a receipt off of the register, and she draws him a map. She said, go up here to the church and hang a right, go to the second light. So she draws this thing, and he went and framed it. He'd never seen anything like that, Dave. And so that was like I told him that was our GPS, you know, back in the day, buddy. But he showed everybody. He thought that was like the greatest thing in the world. that she wrote it on the back of her receipt, man. That's how we used to have to find the towns, buddy. But anyway, I appreciate your time, Dave. I get excited. And
George, I actually forgot. I wanted to ask you, are you involved with a podcast, too?
You know what? I do a lot of them, which I'm so thankful for, and I just did one with Shane Douglas, which was so cool. You know, I love doing them, and I need to learn to shut up so they can ask questions, but I get very excited when...
I love that. That's great. I had questions here today. I threw them out the window. I think we covered most of them, but...
Listen, I'm serious, Dave. You asked me, let's do this before we end. Ask me, and I promise, I'll answer them quick. So if there's anything else, I've got plenty of time, buddy. Don't you rush.
You got most of them. I'll ask you one, though. Let's see one I might have missed here. Oh, how was the StarCast event? Making the Stars, I believe it was called.
Oh yes. Man, that, too, was unbelievable for me because it sounds corny, Dave, but when I get to do shows like that, it's really like going home for me. I mean, it is because some of these guys, like I saw Sting up there, and I hadn't seen Sting in years. But you know what was funny is, gosh, I can't think of his name, but it wasn't Orange Cassidy, but it was one of these young kids that He's on AEW right now, but he actually came up. I know the old guys, but anyway, this young kid was so respectful and he wanted to meet me. So he comes up to my table. I kind of wish I could think of his name. He's like Jericho's second right-hand man right now.
Sammy Guevara?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Listen, he come up to my table, and I tried to sell him a book. And so listen, he asked, can he get a picture? And I said, sure. So we take it, and I forgot all about it. Well, the next day, my phone rang off the hook. People were saying, oh my gosh, where did you meet him? Where did you meet him? I said, what are you talking about? But I guess he posted it on his, Instagram account.
Yeah.
And it went, 10,000 views. 100,000 people watched and saw that picture,
That's awesome.
And so I'm learning to, be more observant to who's around me, but that's where we did that at. He came up to me at that StarCast, and to get to see Dustin Rhodes. But let me tell you one last story about StarCast. I had not seen, this is how special wrestling is to me, Dave. I had not seen Jim Crockett since he sold the Crockett territory here in Charlotte and moved to Texas. I had not seen him or spoke with him. That day at StarCast, they had catering, and before the doors opened. So I go downstairs, it's just me and the beautifulest catering table you've ever seen. And I got plans to eat till I get sick. All of a sudden, the back door opens. I couldn't have wrote this better in a movie. It's Jim Crockett. And I hear this voice, my back's turned, I hear this voice say, George South, Dave, I promise you, it took me back to working for Jim Crockett Promotions here in Charlotte. And I turned around, and man, we hugged each other, and it was that was worth it for me. And you know what I did, Dave, and I'll end it with this. I took 10 minutes. He thought I was nuts. But I said, Jimmy, I just want to thank you for everything that you did for me. Because as a kid here in Charlotte, the Carolinas, it was Jim Crockett Promotions. I mean, that was the big show in town. And to be able to wrestle for him and have him, he feed my family and sign my paychecks. And I think it was very emotional for him that I did that. But I just felt so good the rest of that weekend that I took time to just thank him for that after all these years. So, but a testament to my career, Dave, this is it. I promise. I'm shutting up after this so we can go. Chris Jericho just did a cruise right before this virus hit.
Yep.
He did a cruise out in the middle of the ocean. One of my buddies from high school went and was on the boat. Jericho has Ric Flair as a guest on his podcast. So when Rick walked out, Jericho said, Rick, I just want you to know that my claim to fame is that I'm the only man that's ever been beat by your figure four. And what he meant by that is usually a guy rolls over, somebody will reverse it. Flair's hardly ever beat anybody with it, but Flair stops him, Dave, right in the middle of it and says, no, let me correct you. You ain't the only guy. It's you and George South.
That's awesome.
So my buddy, as soon as they got to land, they docked. My buddy got on his phone and says, you ain't believe this. We're in the middle of an ocean somewhere, and Ric Flair mentioned your name. But here's the thing, Dave. My buddy said, because they don't really know the business, he said, was that a good thing or not? I said, are you kidding me?
That's a great thing.
After all these years, Flair still remembers that he beat me with the figure four. That's like the greatest. That's like my Hall of Fame speech,
100%.
Dave.
100%.
Oh, my man. That's what means something to me. So,
George, this was absolutely awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time, buddy. I get carried away, and I hope I didn't take up all of your day.
No.
Great memories, man.
Yeah.
Great, just fun and great memories, buddy.
George, I've been doing this now. I have my own business. This is like a little passion of mine, and I've been doing it with two other guys for like about 8 months. We're getting excited. We're going to your point, and like I'm the guy who usually does the recruiting for the interviews, and I talk to people, and I just love it. It's like I get excited, and then when somebody else gets excited, like there's this time you call it marking out. Like I'm marking out. Like there's a part when enthusiasm to me is contagious. It lights up the room. So I appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion, man, and it motivates me. So thank you, sir.
Well, I appreciate it. You got to tell fans, man, I go to wrestling to get away from the real world.
Damn right.
I've got a lot of people's got this backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I tell fans that all the time. You know, it'd be like, Dave, if you loved a magician, and I said, Dave, I'm going to take you to see your favorite magician, and we're on the way, and I start telling you how he's doing his tricks and where the rabbit comes from, and eventually you're going to say, George, would you just shut up?
Right.
You know, that's what I tell wrestling fans. Yeah. They've wanted to know for so long how we do our tricks, and then when they found out, they realized that was the stupidest thing they could ever want.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I tell fans, don't tell me. Paul Jones and Wally McDaniel used to be my favorite as a kid, Dave, and I got to know them as they got older. And I remember I used to take number one Paul Jones to lunch. I mean, as he got older and retired, and we'd be sitting there at the table, and he'd say, George, I want you to know that me and Ole Anderson are best friends. And I would honestly, at my age, I'd say, Paul, please shut up. But he would do it. Dave, he would do it to get me mad. He'd say, oh, no, we used to beat the crap out of each other and then go have a beer together. And literally, I didn't want to hear that.
Right.
I mean, ain't that silly? I would say, no, Paul, you hate Ole. And Ole hates you. I mean,
Paul, leave me alone. Let me do this.
You know, I'm going to leave you there at this restaurant, Paul, if you don't shut up. But I don't ever want to lose that. To me, Wally McDaniel and Ric Flair will always hate each other. I mean, it will always be, you know, Ricky Stingler and Ric Flair will never be sitting at the same table signing autographs in my mind.
Right.
You know, because it's just, and I tell fans, quit trying to overthink all this and just, seriously, just eat a bag of popcorn and cheer the good guy and boo the bad guy.
Hey, George, I'll share a story with you. I don't know if you ever heard this story. I thought it was great. Ricky Steamboat was doing some interview, and he told a story that he was feuding with Flair, and he saw Flair at a gas station, and there were a bunch of fans there. And he purposely went up to Rick, I guess. He said, hey, if you ever do that again tonight, I'm going to kill you right where you stand, I swear. And I guess Rick called him up. He's like, did we have heat? And he's like, nah, the fans were there. I just wanted to put on a show. I thought that was the greatest thing. I'm like,
oh, I love it. No, I never heard that. I love that.
Yeah, I thought,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it might be on the WWE Network. One of those things. I saw it and I thought, oh man, what a treat for those fans who were there.
Well, Dave, do you know before Ivan Koloff passed away that we did him and Bruno Sammartini, where we were all at this down in Florida, some big wrestling reunion, and Bruno was there. And Ivan has so much respect for Bruno, but Ivan called me over to his table. He said, would you take this picture and get Bruno to sign it? And I said, dang, Ivan. I said, the people ain't even opened the doors yet. What do you mean? You know, I don't mind. But Ivan still would not break kayfabe, Dave. Right. In other words, he said, no, I don't want people to see me. No, I don't want the boys to see me talking to Bruno. And I got goosebumps, Dave, about that. As much as Ivan loves him, and of course later on in the green room they got to, you know, hug and all that. But and I thought, man, that is just so neat that even at their age, Ivan still, you know, didn't want fans to see him talking to Bruno. And I mean, I thought, man, that's like the you know, if you tried to tell me right now how that Wizard and the Wizard of Oz did his tricks, I'd hang up.
Right.
I tell people, you know, I run kids off from my grandbaby's swimming pool because they'll be trying to tell them there's no Santa. You know, I'm thinking, shut up and let my grandbabies be kids for a while.
Sure, yeah, so, absolutely.
But just keep that enthusiasm, Dave. I mean, pro wrestling to me is the greatest, honestly, the greatest thing. And where else in the world can I got to meet my heroes. I got to know them. It's just unbelievable but you got to keep that mystique about it. You really do. And what was it? About 4 years ago, Lucha Underground, somebody had snuck the results for the upcoming season on the internet. And all the fans were just dying to look at it. And I'm thinking, how stupid is a wrestling fan that would want to know a whole year's worth of results and then sit around and watch the results? That just doesn't make sense to me, buddy.
You know, it's funny. I remember back in the days when the Monday Night Wars, where they would be competing, and I love both companies. I love wrestling, but I would get mad when Eric Bischoff would give the results of Raw. I'm like, I want to watch that later, Eric.
I know.
I'm like, come on.
You sound just like me. I'm thinking, no, you're meant to stay quiet.
Yeah, I'm not a spoiler fan. You know, I mean,
No.
Yeah.
But Dave, there's some fans that will I swear they'll pay $10 to get the results on some website, and then they'll pay $100 for the pay-per-view.
Right.
I mean, you know what? They already got the results, but they'll still buy the pay-per-view. That's all confusing to me. I mean, wait a minute, you got this. You got this back. See, our job, and I'll end this. Our job is the reason I got hooked as a kid is I really thought that Wahoo needed me. In other words, when Ole and Gene was beating him up, I would go buy a ticket and sit ringside because I just knew in my little mind that Wahoo was going to need me, you know, to win this match. And that's why I think if fans could, but right now, wrestlers just got to smarten up and realize, you know, our job ain't to go out there and act like we don't need the people. We do need the people. And I don't know if you could even get it back like that, but I'm sure going to try. But it's just, man, you know, we're not here to save the world. I'll say it again. We're just here to help those fans forget about the rough day that they've had, and then they'll come back next week. It's just that simple.
Absolutely.
So,
all right,
well, buddy, we done saved the world, okay, between me and you.
I'm ready to do it, man. Thank you so much.
Well, listen, thank you for your time, my friend, okay?
You as well. Have a great day, George.
You too, buddy. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.